Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Sacred Symbols Plus, a PlayStation podcast supplement. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined once again by my brother Dagan Moriarty for the third of three Spider-Man Spoilercast and review discussions leading up to the release of Spider-Man 2, although this one will come out a little bit after Spider 2 had launched. So you can look forward to this as you're playing Spider-Man 2, and we'll get back together for a Spider-Man 2 episode later. But if you've missed those two episodes of Sacred Symbols Plus previous, we did a full conversation, I think almost 2.5 hours on Spider-Man from 2018 on PS4, later PS5 and PC. Then we sat down and did about an hour and a half on The City That Never Sleeps, which is the 3 DLC expansions taken as a family. We did that for about an hour and a half. Now we sit down. Those came out in 2018, by the way. Now we have Miles Morales, which was a PS5 launch game on in 2020, also available on PS4. So we actually went in the opposite direction here, Dag, where I played it on PS4 and you played Miles, I think, on PS5. So we'll get into all of that shortly. But before we do, how are you, my friend? Welcome to the show.
Very good, man. I mean, we're filled up with Spidey. I mean, we're getting our Spidey.
Oh, Spidey, fill me up. Oh,
with your Spidey.
That's basically what
juice.
Black Cat was saying to Spidey in the in the City That Never Sleeps. Gross.
It's just kind of a typical trajectory for us, right? I don't mean to make something sexual. You pointed out, then I realized it was really kind of an innuendo. I mean, we start probably 85% of the shows that way. Micah
and I have this thing we laugh about because we watch tons of football where they say really perverted shit to the point where we think it's got to be intentional sometimes. And our favorite one is Chris Collinsworth on Sunday Night Football last year. This is literally what he said.
Okay.
He said Landon Dickerson, I think, was like coming in for a tackle or something and he said, "That's a taste of Landon Dickerson coming down your throat."
Is that really what that's...
He literally said that. I will send you, I'm sure there's video of it. He literally said, "That's a taste of Landon Dickerson coming down your throat." And we were just like, did he just really say that? So we always say that to each other. Like we say that to each other all the time. It's a taste of Landon Dickerson coming down your throat.
That is insane.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Think about it.
Well, that's why we're like, these guys have to know. Like if I were, it's like words like penetration, deep. You know, like balls, long, right? Yeah. There's just a lot of verbiage that can be misconstrued. So if I were them, I would set it right to the line. You know, it's like, what are you talking about? Your mind. It's not my fault that your mind went there. I said Landon Dickerson's coming down your throat. It's not your fault that you thought of that.
That's
I
meant
the
football. Thing, and there can't be a backlash, right? Now you're coming long and deep.
Right.
Well, he was coming long and deep.
Right. He penetrated deep. You know.
It's like Colleen always says, she can't say the word balls, like draw the balls. She has to say spheres. And it's a tennis ball. And she's referring to it as a sphere in a still life.
Balls.
My balls. You can't say balls and you can't say nuts. And but yeah, that's awesome. And I love it. I kind of love the idea that maybe they're doing it a little on purpose. And they know they're going to get away with it. Because
what the fuck? You're millionaires. You're good. No one's going to get who. And then you could just blame it on the other person. So that's what I was thinking. But dude, I got to tell you right now before we get into the episode, I'm fucking shot. I don't know. I'm just like, I don't have a very difficult life. I'm not going to pretend that I do. I work hard, but it's not more difficult than many people listening to the show. But I find that I'm lucky enough in my life to basically just sleep however I want. I go to sleep whenever I want and I get up whenever I want. And I don't make appointments typically that would interfere with that. And today was really no different, but yesterday we had to get up at the ripe old time of 9:30 to go get our wedding certificate or whatever.
Sure.
And I went to bed at like 2 that night, and then I was reading and it just threw me off. Like just because I wasn't able to just wake up when I wanted to wake up, it threw me off. And then today I got up earlier than I really needed to because I wanted to mess around more with Miles Morales. And so, but I got up at like, 10:30 or 11, and even that threw me off just because of how late I'm going to bed. Cause I probably went to bed last night like 4 or something.
Oh, so man, that's late.
So I'm just really struggling where I just need that one day, which will happen probably tonight, where I'm going to go to sleep whenever, and then I'll just wake up whenever. And just that, I think, gives me a better feel on the day than waking up to an alarm clock or waking up because you have to. It stresses me out. So I know I'm very lucky, but I'm just not used to it anymore. I used to have to wake up to an alarm clock. I used to have to go to an office and all that.
I could see getting derailed by that. That'll get you back on track. Dude, I was thinking about you with this because a couple of days, you're a little further out than this, but a couple of days, maybe 3 days before our wedding years ago, I got so sick.
Oh.
Have the sort of propensity to get sick when I'm stressed out. And I don't even realize it. It could just be sort of a subconscious thing going on where I'm worried, but I'm moving along. I'm doing what I have to do. I'm going to work. I'm maintaining all my responsibilities, but there's something with the stress. And I remember, much like you, I have to say, I think once we picked the reception location, I did nothing. I did absolutely no planning. I didn't meet with a florist. I gave my nod on everything. Okay, this is going to be the photographer. This is going to be the place. This is going to be the food. This is going to be the floral situation. But I didn't do anything. It's like Micah, oftentimes the ladies plan these things, right? So it wasn't that. I wasn't exhausting myself due to the labor of planning the wedding, certainly. I was just, I guess that change of life stress that, again, I couldn't really articulate. I didn't feel stressed out, but that must have been going on in the background. And to the point where I got close enough to the wedding where I was like, holy shit, am I going to be like flu-like on the big day? And I wasn't. It cleared. I remember drinking a lot of water and just kind of like resting, sleeping, laying on the couch, whatever. But yeah, man, I could see that's a weird age too. I feel like late 30s, because I feel like you could still get up to a lot of tomfoolery with the schedule, the diet, right? It's the mid 40s. I told you recently when we were just talking mano a mano, but it's like if you slow your roll by your mid 40s, just got to get yourself in check. In late 30s, man, you're still doing a lot of shit. You're still getting up to a lot of 20s mischief, I feel like, and you could do it and you could still feel okay. So you just threw yourself out of whack. You just got to get back on.
Yeah, I'll get back into it. No worries. It's just a passing remark. I just got back from the dentist, so I'm good there for another 6 months, which is nice. Now you're wearing a Slow Dive shirt for the band, I assume. Right?
Yes.
And it's funny because I was just reading about them recently that I didn't realize I like dream pop and stuff like that and shoegaze, but
yeah,
I was reading that they apparently they went away. And then everyone appreciated them. And then they came back. That like when they were around, they weren't very well treated, actually. And weren't very well regarded, which I didn't know. Yeah. You can read about it.
I knew they were never that big. You know what? Shoegaze, I kind of found in a roundabout way. Like no one really introduced me to them. I think it was actually literally through listening to shoegaze compilations on YouTube and being drawn to one or two songs and being like, okay, wait, that's that same band. And then getting into them that way. But I worked with a guy, a music producer at Nickelodeon, actually, a good friend of mine, Mark, who was also actually a musician. And when he saw me wearing a Slow Dive shirt, he was the first guy to be like, I'm a huge fan. In fact, he collected all their stuff on vinyl. Like he was really like a dyed-in-the-wool Slow Dive fan. And then he's the one who kind of taught me about them and that they were, they never really broke it big. But I guess they were also very influential, I guess, in shoegaze or electric pop or ethereal rock, alternative. I don't know.
Dream rock.
Dream rock's a good one. I can see them for that.
I like shoegaze and that kind of stuff. I think it's like kind of there's a Venn diagram between art rock, which I'm a huge fan of, and shoegaze. I've not been to many shoegaze shows. Because I've told people are like, really, have you really been to more than 100 shows? And I'm like, dude, easily, like so easily, because of this story I'm about to say, which is that I used to just go to whatever. And I liked this girl that I worked with at IGN when I was like my early years there that worked in the sales team, and we dated a little bit. And I brought her to Mazzy Star. And I got to say, that was one of the most boring shows I've ever been to in my entire life. You want to talk about shoegaze? That was basically what I was doing the entire time. I was just like, oh my God, when is this going to be over? I
like it because you don't have to dance, and I'm not a dancer. Very self-conscious about dancing.
Oh yeah, I'm always moving at shows, like
yeah. But shoegaze is basically you're just standing there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a perfect name.
It really is,
and it's a good genre. I just wasn't really that into her, but nonetheless, enough about that. let's get into hey, Spider-Man. Let's get into Spider-Man Miles Morales, 2020 launch game, PS5. Shorter game. You can beat it quick. I think I beat it at 88% or something like that. So I still have 12% of I didn't do all of his uncle's like sound beats. I didn't do all of the challenges. I didn't do all the bases, but I did do some of the other like stuff. I collected all of the various things or whatever. Anyway, so I finished it with 88%. I would like to go back to it and get the platinum. That's why I played it on PS4. And I got to say, although I'm a 60 frame snob now, it wasn't that startling to play it at 30 frames a second. It wasn't nearly as bad as I was thinking it was going to be in my head. It's certainly noticeable playing it at 30 frames a second, and you should certainly avoid that if possible and play it on PS5, play it at 60 frames. The same with the original Spider-Man and the DLC as well. But I'm curious, high level, what did you think of your experience with Miles Morales? Now we are fully caught up.
Yeah.
And ready to go, because Miles, I don't think it's appreciated enough that it's not Spider-Man to Spider-Man 2. It really isn't. It really does require you in some way to understand everything, to go from Spider-Man to the City That Never Sleeps to Miles Morales to Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
And I think people will probably jump from 1 to 2, but I think that's probably a mistake. So what did you think?
Yeah, it's pretty linear. I think you're right. It's nice to have the full, we did the full whack. Oh, we did it the right way.
Oh,
I like the purest track, man. Like now I feel like I paid my dues for Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man. And
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
We used to have a guy. I used to have at IGN, I had a fake lawyer character that I used to use called Joel Spiderman, but his last name was Spider-Man. Anyway, go on.
I love the fact that you played on PS4 because I'm a big fan of the Spider-Verse films. We had 2018's the first one, and then we had the second one earlier this year. And that whole sort of style that they came up with about animating it on twos. So that's essentially what you did. You took kind of a purist track and played Miles on twos like it's supposed to be. At least the cinematic universe would tell you so. But I played on PS5. My first full playthrough of any game on PS5. I gotta say, man, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed not having those load times. I enjoyed.
Oh my god, isn't it like I had the exact opposite situation?
We flipped it.
Yeah, it's hysterical because that was the exact opposite. Where I'm like, if something was 500 meters or closer, it wasn't worth it to even.
I hear that.
That's how I kind of, so like a half a kilometer. If it was closer, I wouldn't even bother.
Yeah. Especially, it's even worse for you though, because you were coming off the PS5. I wasn't, you know what I mean? I didn't even know what I was missing until I got it. And to have that controller in my hand for whatever I took, for the game, which was like 9 hours ish, because I did a lot of the extra stuff this time, as much as I could in that time. And yeah, man, I mean, just really, I found it fun. I found it really brisk. I had heard that it was like people were criticizing that it felt like another DLC, like it was that short. I didn't think so. I think it felt somewhere in between a DLC and a full-bodied 2018 Spider-Man experience. I think it felt comfortably.
Yeah, and it was $40 I think when it came out, or 50 on PS5.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, it wasn't a full price game.
Because I feel like it was kind of a full game. I thought there were really some really fun set pieces this time around. Some oh shit, that's awesome moments. And if you were experienced with Insomniac's first Spider-Man, like we were, just fresh off it, you could jump right in and feel pretty comfortable with a few small changes and welcome changes. And we'll get into all those. And I think it also the same thing as the initial 2018 Insomniac Spidey. I think it suffers from the same overall inevitable issue, which for me is, again, the main thrust of the game, the fighting and getting from battle to battle is so good that everything else feels like an unwanted break. So this had the same sort of dynamic going on, but the sidetracking, if you want to call it that, I think was a lot less intrusive than it was in Spider-Man. I think you could do what you want to do and get from those core experiences, the meat of the game. It didn't make you wait as long in between, which I thought was really fun. And, just some of those new touches like Genki's Spider-Man app, that was such an ingenious, not so little touch that made this game stand out from the original. It didn't feel like you were jumping back in the same world with some new missions and maybe a couple of new characters. It felt like a fresh experience.
Right. It's a really good point because nothing really changed in between the games. There's some different, to me, they play like Ryu and Ken, where there are some different, he seems weaker right? And I think it's because I'm playing as a maxed out 50 level Peter Parker, and then you're coming in as, you know, a 1 level, you know, first level Miles Morales, which is why I actually put off usually I do everything as they become available, but I started putting off the combat challenges, because I'm like, he's so weak.
Yeah.
That I'll just make them easier by doing it later. So I liked the kind of Ryu, if you want. Heard some people throw that out there. I don't know about that one.
Rue's a bit much.
Yeah, that's.
Come on.
Again, nothing will beat our neighbor calling Guile Gully. I'll always remember that. Fucking absolutely insane.
That's like not even trying.
Yeah, it's like absolutely insane. It's
you
like,
got the
on,
G.
man.
That's it.
Although Guile taught me the word guile, I didn't even know that word. But anyway, I like that they kind of interplay with each other. I'm really excited to see how that plays out in Spider-Man 2, because he plays both of them. So, and because of the power of the PS5 and the SSD, you can switch between them instantaneously, which is wild. Like anywhere in the city, which is crazy. And I'm so glad that you got to play on PS5. But did you do Dead Space and or Resident Evil with us?
Yeah, I did both.
Did you play them on PC?
Yeah, I played both on Steam.
That's so interesting.
Yep.
Wow. Why? Oh, again, because he said because the PS5 is set up for great.
Yeah, he has it. My son, my now 13-year-old, has it set up in our living room, and the whole idea was to keep him out of his room, right? So kind of keep him in sight, in our sight line. And he has his own little setup, his own little gaming rig, which is just a PS5 and like a 23-inch monitor. And he has his keyboard, and you can watch YouTube on it, obviously, and all that.
Yeah.
But he has it set up. Helene has it in there with her beautiful living room. So it's not on a computer chair or a desk chair or an Aeron chair. It's like a traditional, fancy looking, rigid chair, which my back is hurting from sitting there for 9 hours. And I could play either on my desktop or on one of my laptops in my office. It's just so much more comfortable.
Interesting.
To play on. That's the whole
I wonder
thing.
If you're just a low-key PC dork, which is scary to think about. I never really even thought about that. That's kind of nuts when you really think about it. Yeah.
Because Halo games too. All 3 Halos that we did.
Right. Halo. Right. I played those on Xbox. So yeah, those were, or Xbox Series X. I played mine on.
Alan Wake,
you played on PC. That's right. You played the original Alan Wake, and I played Alan Wake Remastered. That's so interesting. So yeah, this really was. So let me ask you this. What did you think of the DualSense controller? I would argue that we talked about our favorite controllers on Constellation, and I said that the GameCube controller is my favorite controller, probably followed by the NES controller. Mm-hmm. The NES controller is perfect. Absolutely fucking perfect. And in fact, if you can make like a fully playable game on either that or the Genesis controller, and you're not in want of buttons, what good design for your game. But
absolutely.
As far as modern controllers are concerned, like the more modern controllers, the PS5 controllers, the DualSense is a fucking marvel. The haptics are nuts, and you should really, if you haven't played it, play the Astrobot built-in game on PS5 if you've not played that, because that's Astrobot's whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, I gotta do that.
You definitely should. It's bundled in. It's free. So it should be in your download list. You can probably delete it off your console, but. And that's like going to really show you the beauty of the controller. But my big problem with it is that I have this theory. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but the PS5 controller is the first controller that hurts my hands. And that is obviously seriously docking it, because I have a DualSense 4 or a DualShock 4 here. Yeah. This seems to be the perfect form factor for my size hands, and I'm used to playing it. The PS5 controller is a little bigger. Yes. And I start getting pains on the top of my hands, specifically when I have to play a game where I'm hitting the trigger buttons a lot.
Oh, so, that's interesting.
That was like Immortals of Avium was hurting my hand, and God of War. Like, so when you're fighting and doing this, and I would start getting pain up here. And then I started talking about it on the show and discovering other people were experiencing it as well. And I'm like, I wonder if there's like some, not that it would be endemic or widespread, but there's like some low key people out there that are playing and like getting hurt in some unique way, or 40 years of gaming or whatever it's been, 36 years of playing games has finally caught up in my fucking hands.
You get in the claw.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm surprised my body's not like a shrimp. There's a great meme where it says, it's like, me, why does my body hurt so much? And then it's like, me. And it's just a picture of an office chair with a shrimp in it. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. Sometimes when I play drums, I get into like Buddy Rich mode where I'm like, I gotta sit up, dude. Because you watch older and older and older Buddy Rich stuff, he looks like he's a C. He's like a letter C.
That's awesome.
You know, and anyway, I'm getting off on a sidetrack here, Dig. But yeah, what did you think of the controller?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, I can see what you're saying about your fingers having to extend further and your hands covering just that much more distance, even if it's by such tiny increments. That's a big change from what you used to on the PS4. I mean, I love the PS4 controller, the weight, the feel, everything just seems so perfect. And I thought being with the PS5 controller for so long now, I feel like it's a natural progression. You could feel that weight. You could feel that it feels a little more substantial, and maybe that's due to the size, but it was really natural in that sort of organic haptic feedback that it gives you, where it's feel. It's just like it's a feel. It's something you can't even articulate. It's just like a natural. It feels like an extension of your hand, maybe more so than any other controller that I've really dealt with. So yeah, I loved it, and it felt, even the texture of certain things being just that much different. Like the thumbsticks being a little bit of a different texture, having a little bit of that tooth to it almost. It really feels luxurious, and I still love the PS4 controller, and I'm just acclimated with it, but I could see this feels like a step in an upward direction. And I'm looking forward to playing it more. I got to get it off Graydon's gaming rig, or I got to get another one.
Yeah, they just released new colors, or they're about to. So it'll be a good time to buy one. Yeah, because I'm going to buy, there's like a deep blue one that they're going to release, which I really want. I try to buy a new controller every year.
Yeah.
I'm not one of these controller whores, especially because Xbox does it so much better, where you can customize your controller to the nth degree. If you could do that with PlayStation controllers, I'd have 7 million of them. I would come up with new ideas and have the different logos and all sorts of treatments, but they don't do that. So
I wonder why.
My assumption is it's probably not very profitable to do it. I think it's a really cool thing. I think you call it Xbox Labs or something, like where it's like, I want the sticks to be this color. I want the D-pad to be this color. I want the front to have this logo in this color. I want the back to have this color. It's really wild.
So you can make a one-of-a-kind thing.
They've done that for years.
Right. I love that idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea, but I think it's probably not worth it, really. Yeah. But so that's why I think they don't do it. But yeah, that deep blue one, Mountain Blue, I think it might be called something like that. But yeah, I have this is my Islanders colored. It's more like Mets, really, but close enough. And when I bought it, it came from the Middle East, which I thought was weird. When you buy things on Amazon and you get like whatever you get, I often get, when I buy physical games every blue moon, or when I buy things for Micah, because she gets a lot of physical games, they often come from like the Cero, not the Cero version, the Peggy version from Europe.
Oh, that's interesting.
And this came in a box that was just in Arabic. Like, it was a real PlayStation package, but it was just in Arabic from like the Middle East. And I was like, all right, I guess that's
What do you think that's due to? Do you think that's due to where you're buying from, like your location in the country, or it could be other factors too? I think during like the Wii U era, and I guess I was still getting PS3 and PS4 stuff at that time too. A lot of my shit was coming from France, specifically from France. I think I got a French Wii U console, actually. And I didn't ask for it. I guess whatever shipping logistics, it just made sense to ship.
Could be Canadian too.
Yeah, that's another thing I would think about too. Like coming
like French or French Canadian,
that far from here.
Yeah, that I would assume, when I was thinking about that when I got the controller, and I'm like, what is this? What is going on here? And my assumption is that they buy so much that they probably literally buy massive pallets of this stuff and then ship them all over the world to themselves. So like the Middle East, Amazon or whatever, got fucking 1 million of these, and then they're like, all right, we're going to ship them.
Let's distribute these things.
All over the world. That's probably literally why. But yeah, it actually annoys me. I think it annoys a lot of people that buy games on Amazon, because for purists, they don't want like Peggy rated or whatever, Cero rated, whatever the fucking random shit you're going to get. They want the ESRB stuff if they're in America. But anyway, I'm glad that you enjoyed the controller. I really love it too, but I'm wondering about the long term. I will say it's heavy, which I appreciate. Yeah. Although I have hardwood floors downstairs. Up here, it's not a problem, but I drop the controller all the time, and it sounds like it's going to break into
go through the floor.
Yeah, it's like I don't. I'm like, there's no way this thing works, and then you pick it up and it works fine. I think people. I've said this many times, Dang, on Sacred Symbols, that people report controller situations so much, and I've had so few in my entire life that I'm like, what are you guys doing to your controllers? Seriously. It's like when mom says her iPhone is broken, and I'm like, no, it's not.
Ow.
Like, your iPhone's not broken. So it's like, what did you do to it? What did you do to it? Like, remember when everyone's PS4 controllers were unraveling, the sticks were unraveling when the PS4 came out?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I never had that problem. I play PS4 way more than all of you.
Yeah, you spent a lot of time on
that. What are you doing to it?
It's true. The only thing, and a lot of people know this, that broke a couple of times on us over the last 5 years were the Switch Joy-Cons.
That's very common. Yeah, it was the boys here, Dana's kids have the same problem too.
It's almost universal, and it doesn't. Because at first, the first time it happened might have been when you and I were doing Cuphead for Knockback, and I was like, "Am I being too hard on this thing?" But it wasn't that. Then I heard the din and I heard the commotion and the hubbub about everything, and I was like, "It's definitely not us." And it happened multiple times with multiple games.
Yeah, it sucks. Hopefully they clean that up. They're so dainty.
Yes,
I think they need to bulk that thing up a little bit. I think heavier would be good. You should ask when you're here for the wedding, ask Derek, our brother-in-law. He tells a funny story about their Joy-Cons breaking and that they weren't going to fix them. And he pulled out I've been a Nintendo customer for 30 years.
Yes, I know this story.
Yeah.
And they responded to that.
And they did. And they, like, I was like, that's great. That's good shit. All right. So we find Miles Morales and Peter a year after the events of the DLC that we discussed on the last episode. And so Spider-Man's kind of been finding himself in this environment. I have to say this, that I love the core outfit that he starts in where he's wearing like the vest and the sweatshirt or whatever. And I kept him in that. Even when you would get new suits, because they would upgrade you new suits or give you new suits, I'd be like, I want to go back to that. I just loved that look. Like he's differentiated in some way that's not so obvious, but it's like it's Harlem's, as opposed to Queens, it's Harlem's guy or whatever. And I really enjoyed that. But we get to know these characters, and Peter conveniently is going away to Europe, to that fake country that Silver Sable's from, which is interesting. I don't think I picked that up the first time that I played it. I don't remember. And so he's going over there. MJ's got some sort of journalist lead that she's following up on. So this leaves not two, but one Spider-Man for New York City. And so he's the Spider-Man, and we find that he's kind of finding himself, and people don't really take him very seriously, and they want the real Spider-Man. And they kind of reiterate that over and over again, whether it's with the huge mural or the kind of the dickhead in the bodega and all the rest. But so we find it a year later, like I said. So how did you like the intro? How did you like the way that they spun this from Peter's story into Miles' story, getting rid of Peter but keeping him on the phone? Very opposite of the situation with the City That Never Sleeps, where Peter's talking to Miles constantly on the phone. So I like that. But anyway, I leave it to you. What do you think? Where do you want to take it from here? Yeah,
I love that whole other Spider-Man thing. He's coming in filling big shoes, and he's also a little reluctant, and he's young. He's 17. He's still in protege mode, and Pete's like, you know what? You're taking over. I'm going away for a few weeks. It's all yours for a while, type of thing. And Miles really has no choice but to jump in. It's like sink or swim, which is super fun. I agree with you about the hooded suit, and we see the same thing with Finn in this. And I just think it lends to that NYC sort of urban hip hop graffiti.
Definitely.
Type of vibe. It does feel good. I definitely upgraded to the iconic black and red, or dark blue and red, whatever you want to call it, Spider-Verse suit, because I love that suit. But it has that typical carbon fiber thing. There is just something about that hood that differentiates Miles from Pete. It's the age, it's the vibe, it's the part of the city that they're from. It's a whole different thing. And I think what I also love about how they set this up, there's two things I love about this game. You're almost in the action very close to immediately. You're jumping right in, and you get a chance to I think what we were looking for, what we were kind of clamoring for by the time the 2018 Spider-Man game ended, was this team up, right? Of mentor and mentee, mentor and protege. And you get a little bit of that in the beginning of this game. They kind of steep you in that they work together during the Rhino fight. They bring back the Rhino's awesome villain, and they have to bring him to justice together, and that whole sort of set piece battle of corralling the Rhino while he's running amok in the street and then through the parking garage in the mall. And you have to steer him around to make sure he does, minimal damage and not hurt people. And they're kind of working together. So you get a little bit of taste of working together. I know that's going to foreshadow things to come. And then, Pete's like, all right, well, you seem ready. I'm off and it's all yours type of thing. So I love that. I love that you get a little bit of a little bit of what we were looking for, and you get right into the action. They don't really leave you waiting. There's no delay. You just jump right in. And you get, one of my favorite set piece moments of the whole game is that rhino thing in the mall. It's so well done. And it's one of those moments that make the experience memorable. So there's more of that from the original games. And I would argue too, the DLC had a lot of that too. So it's nice to continue that tradition of really thoughtful gaming moments.
Yeah, we'll get into a few of those too, because I wrote in my notes that I just think that Miles Morales in a lot of ways reiterates what it is to be a PlayStation game. There's just a lot of love and extra work and heart put into it. I was using an example with Mike. I was like, look at this. This is a small thing, but it's a meaningful thing in my opinion. There are crimes all over the city, the red icons, and you can just ignore them, but they come up in your phone, and you can also just get calls, and they pop up when you're in proximity. And I was like, check this out. I jumped into this crime, but they don't know I'm here yet. And instead of they're just standing there going about little AI paths and whatever, there's a whole conversation and story about this specific crime, about why they're here and they're waiting here and they're doing this and they're doing that. I'm like, there's so much unnecessary extra work. This is the term I use, production per square inch, when I talk about it on Sacred Symbols. This is what I mean. It's not always aesthetic or even in terms of environment. It's often in terms of just the texture. Like I would have, and what's funny about this, Dagan, is that I only discovered this when I think I died when I was trying to commit the crime or complete this crime mission, and found myself above them, respawned, listening in and finding out that the story existed in the first place. Because usually I come onto these crimes, just hit the triangle button, just mash the triangle button. So I just immediately go to one guy and kill him automatically, and they all just know I'm there, and then I fight them. So there's just a lot of little stuff like that the game is very dense with. It's a shame almost, because the game baits you and you should play it fast. I mean, that's the entire idea, is you play the game really, really fast, like Devil May Cry or something. You're supposed to play it fast, fast, fast. Sonic, same way. But
right, there you go,
unlike those games, I mean, like those games in some sense, but certainly not to this density. There is so much there where I would stop and just look around sometimes in the city and be like, I'm never stopping, I'm never moving, but there's a basketball court, and there's these people sitting on a park bench, and there's people over here, and there's cars over here, and they're all stacked up, and there's an accident. Just feels really alive. And I really, really appreciated that. And speaking of that, I wanted to ask you this next, which was, what did you think of Manhattan in the wintertime? This is an easy way to differentiate the games. It's also a bigger emphasis on nighttime, which is cool in this, especially night winter, which is really, really nice. But I like that you just change the weather a little bit. You change the flora a little bit, and you find just a different city that doesn't feel so worn, especially because we played them back to back. A lot of people have been asking, or were asking, aren't you afraid you're going to be tired of Spider-Man? I'm like, well, I'm on the precipice of Spider-Man 2, and I am mega pumped about it right now.
Oh, me too.
So by the time this comes out, it will have already come out. We will have already played it, or at least I would have. But so I don't feel like I'm wanting anything, or feel like I needed to let anything go. The games felt differentiated from each other, even if they were set in the same place. So what did you think about Manhattan in the winter?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it was a really nice tune-up from the first game. I mean, first of all, Christmas, or any urban center, but especially New York during Christmas, during the holidays, it's a vibe. You have the Christmas lights and the decorations and the street Santa and the Christmas music in the background. But beyond that, just the snow, but sort of an urban presentation of snow. It's kind of beautiful and picturesque when it's on the buildings, but in the street, it's icy, it's slushy, it's dirty, it's grimy. And there's a little bit of that feeling too. Cars are snowed in. It's kind of aggravating as much as it is beautiful. And sometimes not, sometimes it's not beautiful. Sometimes it's just, it's not yellow snow. I didn't see any yellow snow, but I certainly saw a lot of dirty snow. It just felt like the streets are a little icy. It's slushy. You're up to your ankles. Your jeans are getting wet. It's like 3 inches of slush. I got that sort of very recognizable for us in New York, sort of New York City urban vibe from it. And it was a nice way to set the game apart visually from the original game. And I think with the Christmas lights and with this specific direction they took it in aesthetically, I know they did it's PS5 now, so you have ray tracing, you have what you could do with reflections in the windows now, and light refracting off different substances and textures and objects. So you get to play that up and show off a little bit. And it did feel rich. I love what you said too, Kyle, about just those inadvertent little details, or all the loving nods or TLC that go into the game. Even though we know how you're supposed to play it, right? You're supposed to move fast. It's supposed to be this momentum and this rhythm, this energetic forward motion. But anytime I inadvertently stopped, like I just messed up web slinging and landed in the street, there was one moment when somebody just ran up and took a selfie with me. It's like, those are little details that you may not even ever see, but definitely in the game. And again, we talked about this with the original game. And I think this is the direction video games have gone in with the advent of technology, is that, there's no more, like, you're in New York City, you're uptown, you're in Harlem. This is a busy place. This is millions of people. Years ago, you would have got that ghost town effect of, this feels like a video game version of that. Where are all the people? Where are the cars? Where are the blaring horns? Now it really feels like a proper version of New York. And what I noticed even in the 2018 Spider-Man was there's even a little differences of what they do between daytime and nighttime. Nighttime's a little less crowded, but still plenty of traffic, still the headlights, still plenty of cabs, people yelling from their window, whatever, but a little more populated in the daytime. Little nuances like that just make it feel so dynamic, the attention paid. And I wonder how much of that is Insomniac, how much of that is the people and the overlords at Disney and Marvel sort of shepherding, by the way, lovingly shepherding Spider-Man across media. And just like a protectiveness, not even with the visual presentation in this game, but even with the writing, the dialogue, the voice acting, the level of mocap. There's a lot of quality in this game. And I think you could feel it's a proper extension a couple of years later from what they did with Spider-Man. It's like, oh, it's going to get even better, which is another reason why I too am looking so forward to Spider-Man 2, because if it gets even better, that's going to be a proper payoff. And it makes you kind of pine for what they're going to be capable of 5 years from now, makes you start dreaming up, wow, imagine where it's going to go for Spider-Man 3. I kind of love that.
Maybe it's a bias, but I would, just based on the general output of Marvel products and video games and Star Wars games and all the things that would be under Disney, and kind of the imbalance between all of them, I would think that the good games end up good because of the studios. So Respawn with the Star Wars Jedi games, very well respected games. I don't know that Disney had much to do with why that's good. And I would think the same thing would be true with Insomniac, where I don't know that. I'm sure Marvel comes in, especially with world building and basically rule sets, as far as like, you can't do this, you can't do this. Everyone's got to fucking live, and it's insane and all that. And that's fine. But I think apart from that, just looking at Insomniac's history, I would think it was them that would be the special ingredient here. So let's talk a little bit about Miles himself. I like this character a lot. He's 17 and he's at Brooklyn Visions, and I guess like a high-end science-based high school. He just moved though from Brooklyn to Harlem. So he's in Manhattan. We meet his friend Finn later, who we'll talk about, but we meet more imminently his friend Genki, who's really great too. I really like their relationship a lot. I like these two. I like meeting his family. I thought it was really cute, for instance, when he's doing the rhino chase and all of that. His mom is talking to him on the phone, and he's supposed to be going to get like coconut water or something like that, and some weird shit. And so he's fighting back and forth, and Genki obviously comes to the rescue. I really especially love the scene early on. And I think this, again, the game breathes a lot more. You can tell that there's a different pacing in this game than there was in the original one, with a more deliberative story, in my opinion. And they have that scene in his grandma's apartment that he lives in now with his mom, and she's running for office or whatever. And Genki spills something on the ground, and then Finn comes over and they all have dinner, and you get to explore his room a little bit in the apartment. I love how you get to pick out a record, his dad's records. And I was picking out a record based on how I wanted his mom to feel, so like nothing too wistful or sad and all that. And it's cool that the game makes you feel that way. I do think that scene had something stupid in it, like very unnecessarily video gamey, which was like, oh, the power's fucked up. Spider-Man, go out and fix the power and then come back in and make sure no one sees you. It's like, oh my God, can't we just have like a normal storytelling moment? So, but I really enjoyed getting to know Miles in this game more, and his family. And so what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, man. I mean, that is a really funny thing that they did. And I don't know too much outside of the cinematic universe with the 2 Spider-Verse films. I'm not that familiar with Miles in the comics and stuff. So I don't have a deeper understanding of that character beyond the films and this game. But there's something with that bioelectric power that he has that I love because it separates him a little bit in his capabilities from Peter, and maybe even, arguably makes him even more powerful or potentially powerful. But they definitely do a thing with that where it's like, of course that's effective for combat and he's going to use it there, but also he's got an unpower a lot of generators in this game. It's like, what else can we do with that?
Right.
To do, like, he has this pragmatic control.
L1
also.
plus square. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of that to a comedic degree. Not that it's not entertaining, and it does make sense for the game. But Miles it's interesting because Peter Parker's a lovable character, and we've known him over media for so many decades. It's almost like a character to create a protege for. It's tricky because it's like, who are we going to like as much as we like this guy? And Miles is the answer to that. It's pretty crazy. He's very appealing. He's got that enthusiasm, but he's also reluctant. He doesn't really either trust himself or he doesn't realize the full extent of his powers yet. And there's sort of this lack of self-confidence that's really lovable. In other words, you would think picture a 17-year-old with this guy's capabilities, right? Cockiness all over the place, arrogance, but he's the opposite of that, And I love also that he's got that sort of talking to himself, quipping thing that Pete does. But when Peter does it, it's sort of this lovable, wise ass shit. When Miles does it, it's really kind of this babe in the woods, actual surprise, self-replicating thing where and sort of a lack of worldly understanding, a lot of it because he's only 17. A lot of the stuff is just, he really is incredulous, which makes it really cute. Whereas Pete, it's the confidence of being Spider-Man for going on a decade now, and he could do that while he's fighting, and it makes him lovable and it makes us root for him. But with Miles, he's still coming to terms with all this stuff, and it comes out in the things that he says. And it makes you really kind of root for him in a different way than you root for Pete. He's not there yet. If he was kind of doing the one-liners and the Arnold jokes like Pete was, it wouldn't really make sense. He's only like a year into this thing. So I kind of love that. I love that it kind of separates the two, and the sort of the teacher and the student, they're different, And then the Genki dynamic is cool because that's Miles's MJ. But you don't have the romance angle to it. You're not saddled with that type of thing. It's a bromance.
Yeah.
It's just they're boys. And so you have this dispatch, intel, advisor, shoulder to lean on, best bro type thing. But you don't have a love story behind it. It's a different type of love story. And Genki's awesome. I just love him in this. I love the way he's portrayed. He's just, he has no powers. He's just courageous. He's intelligent, and he's loyal, unquestioningly loyal to his friend. He loves him. And, he's got that whole Q dynamic. He's the inventor. He's the hacker. He's going to create tech for this guy, and he's going to do what he's talented at as backup, but he's not going to go out there swinging webs and fighting. That's not his strong point. So he helps the way he can by being Genki. You know what I mean? But I love that purely platonic love, and he's the keeper of Miles' secret before anybody else knows. So he's the one dude in his corner that he could really trust. And they're a cool team up. It's not a Batman and Robin thing. They're not fighting on rooftops together. It's an unconventional sidekick, like an MJ, but still that same level of courage. But when you take the love story out of it and make it, a bros before hoes type thing. It's like a whole nother flavor. I really dig it. And plus their age and what they're going through on a personal level, individually, it's relatable. I could definitely see like a 17-year-old loving these comics and these stories.
Yeah, me too. I take to these characters a great deal too. I think that there's we talk about this with Persona and certain other things, just maybe generally anime and a lot of the JRPGs we play that are so much based on younger people in their teens or in their 20s. And why are we so interested in that? And I think there is just something about going back there, the innocence, the possibility, the quaintness of it. And I think that this game really captures a lot of that very well. I especially, again, love exploring the apartment and kind of just getting to know him through the things you were finding, whether they were like tickets to a show or an old picture and so on and so forth. And lots of exposition and lots of really good writing. I think that that's one of the things you can't understate in a game like this is just immense amount of writing. And a lot of it is really, really good. As I said in our previous conversation, I really think that I'm still impervious to the Marvel dialogue thing because I don't overexpose myself to it. I just don't watch very much of it at all. So the quippiness and the cuteness and all of that and the playfulness, I could imagine that would be really annoying if it was in everything. But for some reason, it just makes sense in Spider-Man. That's kind of how I feel Spider-Man is. Very much like I think Deadpool, I don't know anything about Deadpool, but as I understand it, it's very crude and crass, and that's just what it is. I feel like this is supposed to be this way. It's not supposed to be dead ass serious all the time. It's supposed to constantly have levity but get serious. The swings back and forth, like we say in like a show like The Wonder Years, where it almost makes it more pronounced because it's deeply funny sometimes, and then it gets deeply serious. And while that, and The Office was the master of that, actually.
Oh God, yeah, they were really good at that.
And just the subtext and all of that. So I think you have to just embrace what Spider-Man is. And from my perspective, I'm a noob. I'm not going to be anything more than I'm not going to read the comics or anything. That's kind of how I managed to anyway interpret it. And yeah, Genki is a neat character. Again, his MJ for sure. And we meet Finn a little bit later. What did you think of this character? This is, I guess, what you would look at as, I don't know. Is this a potential romance? Could when a boy and a girl become friends in middle school, like they did, and they had this thick relationship. And by the way, I do think it's a little funny and a little maybe melodramatic about like when they're finding their time capsules, which I think is really cool for the exposition. But it's like, you just buried these like 4 years ago. I don't know. You're speaking about, oh man, it's so different here. And I remember when it was 4 years ago. It wasn't that long ago when you were talking about any of this stuff. But that aside, they're young and everything is obviously magnified through their lens of youth, where things happen more rapidly anyway, and you experience much more quickly, and so on and so forth. I really dug that they tuned into that, but I was wondering if Finn was supposed to be like some sort of two ships in a night thing where they could have been maybe a couple or something, or if there was any romance there, because you have that other character, the deaf girl, that I feel like is maybe more the love interest. I really want to see her come back in Spider-Man 2, like really bad.
Me too.
So yeah, what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I mean the Finn character is interesting, and you know, of course, we come to know her as the Tinkerer. I didn't realize that this was supposed to be, I think, the Tinkerer in the comic books traditionally dating back to the 60s. I think maybe the mid 60s.
Wow, I don't know that.
I forgot until I researched it that's Phineas Mason. So this modern interpretation of the character, or this modern version, just calling her Finn, making it a female. And I think, as I remember that sort of era of supervillains, because I remember the Tinkerer being like this MacGyver-like dude, but sinister, like a mad scientist. But his whole thing was, the whole bent was that he could take any kind of junk, any kind of tech, and MacGyver it together into some badass deadly weapon. And sometimes he did it for himself as his own standalone supervillain, and sometimes he was in the employ of other supervillains. Like he would make other people shit. And so I thought this was a fun version of this character to make Finn this time contemporaries with Pete. Like they're junior high besties, right? They're both kid scientists. They had that in common. Eventually they grew apart, whether that was partially because of, you know, Miles moving from Brooklyn up to Harlem. And that's that's hours, you know, that's hours on a subway, you know, so that's pretty dynamic. There's a lot of, especially inner city kids, that would be able to relate to that. And just to make someone also of, you know, they're two proponents or two underlings of the same mentor in Finn's brother, Rick. Like they both came up under, you know, admiring that same mentor, that same teacher. And, he's the one who kind of imbued them with the science, and he's the big hotshot scientist at Roxxon. And, he's the one that kind of brought them along together. So they were both pupils of the same person, which is another interesting thing. And also a villain where once you learn the story and her connections to everybody, you have a lot of sympathy. Like you understand why she's doing what she's doing. Now she crosses over into terrorist sort of.
Yeah, I would say so.
Which is not, which is not good. That's not cool by miles. She takes it a bit too far. But I mean, I like the character, and I like the inventive way of putting a new twist on an old character, and kind of as drastic of a twist as you could imagine. If you look at what the original Tinkerer was, it's like, wow, now you're making her into this young African-American girl. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I didn't know any of that. I had none of that subtext. I assumed she was someone. I didn't know that it was like a man. And I assumed that there was some sort of meltdown, although I don't remember about taking a white man and making into a black woman. I'm sure there's probably a small furor about that, and then a much larger fake response to let everyone know that they were racist or bigoted, for all those kinds of things. So I'm sure that's how it went. I just totally had missed all of that.
I'm sure that's true.
But I like that character, and I like the ambiguity of their relationship and kind of, the frayed edges of it. And I think maybe although again, very comic booky and fiction, like the kind of reasonable stakes of why you care and why you're doing certain things, and the idea of revenge and avenging people. And so it's interesting that it all kind of gets out of control. The one character that do you know anything about the Simon Krieger character in the comic book universe?
No,
he kind of is a lame character in my opinion. You don't really get to know him. I wonder if he'll be back or if they're going to do something with him. But he was actually, I guess, a classic MacGuffin where it wasn't really even ultimately about him very much. What did you think about that performance? I'm pretty sure that's Troy Baker, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, that's Troy Baker.
Yeah.
And when I saw the performance, again, just thinking back to what they've been doing all along over the last 5 or 6 years, dating back to the first game, with the mocap and the nuance and capturing the acting and sort of those small expressions that there's a level of performance that you just don't see a lot still in video games. And I think it's really impressive. And then when I found out it was Troy Baker doing this smarmy sort of creep slime ball type character, he's really a weasel. He's the weasel type. I thought it was interesting for the game because he's not a dynamic villain, obviously, in terms of power or appearance. You have different flavors of villains, right? You have like the big brute, like a rhino, and you have the teched out gadgeted baddie, and the brainiac mastermind type, and the high powered force to be reckoned with, like a Magneto, right? Or one of those. Or you have the puppet master type, which we saw with Hammerhead or Kingpin, where you have a guy who just has a huge following, like a huge army. This is that other type of guy who's just kind of this bottom line, money hungry cretin who's high powered because of his position in this evil, this sinister corporation. And I thought that was an interesting choice. Maybe he does seem like a little bit of a MacGuffin. I just think his personality is so relatable, and that we all know somebody like that. Even if it's just someone we see in movies, you could tell the guy has zero good intentions. He's completely out for himself. As I was watching his performance, before I made the Troy Baker connection, which is a brilliant VO performance, I saw a lot of like a Topher Grace in this guy. It's like, that guy who's like a little bit handsome, a little bit money hungry, rich, wealthy, just seems kind of like I think of the show Entourage when I think of these types, just vapid, really concerned with their appearance. He's talking about going to the gym, that type of thing. And I saw a little Jimmy Fallon, like there's a little lovability there, but also like crossed with Topher Grace, like a guy you obviously can't trust just by looking at him. And again, you have this, whether you're inventing new heroes or you're just relying on the rogues gallery over the decades, it is an interesting choice to put this guy in charge, but also kind of believable and grounded in that you could see this guy being the head of R&D for a big company, a big, in this case, energy power company. So I thought it was interesting, but I was really more smitten with the performance, which I thought was a level above what you see in video games. I just thought it was really, really well done.
What do you think about the whole story with Roxanne and the underground? It's a little weak, actually, because there's even a throwaway line that Finn says where I think Miles asks, like, why are the underground fighting Roxanne? Basically as a proxy, and she's like, oh, they just want to be well known and so people respect them or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's interesting, kind of a plot hole, but nonetheless, as if I understand it, I think that the basic crux of things is, you know, Roxanne, this ExxonMobil type energy company, is creating this new renewable and presumably safe form of power called Nuform, but it's gotten people sick, including Rick Mason, who I think is Finn's brother. And so this is her arc, which to me makes sense, where she wants to retaliate against Roxanne, and she's not trying to be a terrorist killing humans, at least in the beginning and towards the middle of the game. She wants to just destroy their headquarters, and since it's being constructed, her theory is that no one will get killed, but she has, I guess, vastly underestimated this new form that Krieger had manipulated in some way that was going to do even more damage, so they have to get everyone out of Harlem. And meanwhile, you learn that Uncle Aaron, so Miles' deceased dad's brother, is the Prowler, who's this other guy, and there's this kind of gray character in that whole relationship you have to manage. So what do you think of the story itself? Were you compelled by it?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was okay. It's very sci-fi, actually, if you think about it. I mean, maybe it's that every time I hear of the sinister power company or energy corporation, I think of Shinra from Final Fantasy VII, because that, and I know it's dated back to cyberpunk and steampunk way earlier in other works of fiction, but my hallmark is always Final Fantasy VII. I think of Shinra. I think of that evil corporation that's really like this power company, and in this case, it sort of echoes that. You know, it's this energy company that has created this new, seemingly sustainable power source, and it's all bottom line. It's all dollar signs. You know, it's all like we're going to be, endlessly wealthy from this thing, knowing full well that this thing is dangerous and it's killing people and it's making people sick, but they're going to bury that part of it. And then it kind of ties in with our antagonists and protagonists in that Finn's brother is the one who single-handedly invented this thing, but also in the next breath found out how dangerous it was and wanted to expose it, while the company tried to keep it silent. And then the underground, which I guess seemingly already existed, sort of teamed up, I guess, with Finn and made this agreement that you could kind of be part of our thing and command our army, and you give us your knowledge to create the tech, and then we'll work with you to expose Roxanne. And that's Finn's whole bent, is to expose this company's treachery and show Nuform for what it is, which is this dangerous thing that killed her brother. But she's going to blow this place up. She's not even thinking of the fallout of all the innocent lives she's going to take. She's just thinking of, basically avenging her brother.
But it's worth noting that she doesn't think she's going to kill anyone. She doesn't. The Nuform, right. the way she understood Nuform, it was going to have this certain explosion, but she didn't know that it was altered. And because Miles lied to her about who he was when he got entrance to the underground, she didn't trust him when he was telling her that, like, the Nuform has changed and the explosion is going to be way bigger than.
That's right. She was playing hard and fast with the rules, and that if anything went wrong, Miles knew that if anything went wrong, if any part of her plan went awry, it would cost the lives of innocent people. And she, of course, that wasn't her intent, but her bent was like not even really considering that or even caring about that. You know, her thing was just avenging Rick. But so Miles kind of bringing her online and saying, like, look, I understand, like, we need to bring Roxanne the justice. They're obviously vile, right? But not your way. Let's do it my way. She wanted to do it her way, which was a lot more violent, or potentially violent. Yeah. So it kind of an interesting kind of dynamic. And then I think it also echoed what you had in the first game between the high tech sort of army in Spider-Man, we had Sable Industries, right? Versus the Hammerhead thugs. And in this game, we have Roxxon Energy versus the Underground. So it was kind of the same thing. You have these two battling armies and you're trying to mediate.
Oh yeah, make no mistake, these are complete reskins of the same thing, probably. Although I did find fighting to be more refined in this game. I felt like I was taking less damage, not by hit, but I just wasn't getting damaged as much, and the game was a little more elegant. I do wonder what they fixed and what they tweaked and what they learned from the telemetry of the original game. You had brought it up earlier, the Friendly Neighborhood 1.0 app, which is a really cool thing. And what I love about this is it's just presenting what is already in the game in the original Spider-Man in a different way. Instead of having just randomly occurring side quests or crimes, they both appear in this app that you have a little bit more control over. You can go and replay the crimes and replay some of these missions to get more tokens if you want to try to get some of the ancillary, secondary and tertiary mission objectives completed and all the rest. And I really, really liked this too. I was glad you brought this up, and I wanted to go deeper into this because I just think that sometimes the simplest repackaging, there's only so many things you can do in a video game. I think that's why, and I don't want to be small-minded about it, but I think that's why violence is always a major focal point of video games, even if it's cartoon violence or implied violence or silly violence, or it's not really violence. Think about, the new Mario game that's coming out. Like, it is predicated on violence of attack and hurting and killing and removing something from the stage. And sometimes it just takes simple repackaging of a formula that's well worn to make it feel different. And I just think that that's a really wise thing. Like, whoever came up with that, or whatever part of the design team in Insomnia came up with the Friendly Neighborhood 1.0 app, I really liked it because it also gave Genki kind of more of a real purpose, very similar to MJ's reporting. And one thing I did notice in this is that they certainly didn't make you play as Genki. Do you think that they well, tell me more about how you feel about the Friendly Neighborhood 1.0 app, and do you think that maybe one of the things they learned is that we do not want to play as these other characters? At least I don't.
Yeah, that definitely seemed like a thing of this is Miles's game. Plus it's shorter, so there's less time to dedicate to, side missions and things where you're experimenting with playing as pedestrian Peter Parker.
Right, but no puzzles either or anything like that. Like, they got rid of all the things people complained about, in my opinion.
Yeah, they left a few things intact. Like, you still have to crawl around in the air vents. Right. You still have to get from point A to point B. There's still some semblance of side missions. There's still those things like the Christmas Eve dinner bit, which is not, you're playing it to a certain degree, but it's really just a slowed down cinematic, that type of thing. But largely the connective tissue doesn't take as long, and they definitely took out things that were particularly aggravating to a lot of people, like the puzzle segments. Right. Which is interesting. And I think, there was something about it. Now, I don't know if it's just me, and I don't know if it's a physical appearance or maybe that Miles is a little smaller than Peter, but just moving him around, controlling him, Miles did feel a little lighter to me, and he felt a little more clumsy. He felt a little more out of control, which would make sense because this is a kid who's been doing it for a year as opposed to the better part of a decade in Peter, right? So that made sense. It controlled really fluidly, don't get me wrong. It just felt a little different. It felt like Miles had the ability to go a little faster and get a little more out of control, where you had to rein him in a little bit, and the web slinging and maneuvering. The combat did feel very smooth to me. The combat felt even better to me than the first one, which I thought was great, to the fact that I really didn't even mess with the tech this time, because I just loved Miles' innate combat capabilities, even operating in stealth and everything. I think all told, it just felt like a little more evolved from the first game, which was super fun. But yeah, I could feel slight differences. And again, I don't know if that's really more me just being extra sensitive, because we're just coming off these games by a couple of days. So we had that direct linear sort of experience with just jumping from A to B, which was kind of cool. But I kind of loved that. And yeah, the app, man, I just thought that was such a clever, I loved swiping on the pad. I loved sort of treating it like something seems more built in for contemporary teenagers, right? It's like, oh, we're going to do Genki design this app, so now the residents in New York City have direct access to Spider-Man when they need something. and you could check it between missions and see, oh, someone lost their cat, someone's got their car stolen, someone's got, someone's car stuck in the snow, whatever it is. And what I loved about it was not only the concept, which is really just a really precious idea that I really dig, was also the execution, in that when you went to help somebody, like let's say you did the mission where you were helping the window washer, it wasn't just a straight up expected experience. Like there was a lot of dimension and layering to each thing. Now you had to help the guy, his whole apparatus, you had to fix the electricity, but there were thugs up there, you had to fight them. So it led to different sort of A, B, and C during each mission, which I thought was really, at first I was a little aggravated by it because I was like, well, how long is this going to take? I'm getting off the beaten path here. But then I realized it was a really inventive way to tie it in to, the antagonists and the crime and everything like that. So there were always multiple steps that you had to perform in order to kind of get to the end of each side mission. And I thought that was really clever. I thought that was really, really neat how they did that. You get, the guy in the truck, it's like you get him out of the snow. You just L1, R1, pull him out, but then he drops his clipboard. Now it's a chase because you got to get him back. You got to get his clipboard back so he knows where to make his deliveries, right? So it was that kind of added storytelling and gameplay and that dimension that's just good ideas well executed, which I thought was really, really clever.
Yeah, it's funny you brought up that specific mission, because that mission bothered me just from the sense of, how is your truck full of perishable food snowed in? Like, did you load it? Then it just snowed and got plowed in. Like, so is the food bad? Like, I don't know that. I wrote that particular mission down of all the ones I did. I was like, that one annoyed the shit out of me, but I did love some of the other ones. Like there's going
to be a lot of food poisoning.
Oh, exactly. Well, they'll take whatever they can get, I guess. It's like the
poisoner.
It's like the stumps of the muffin in Seinfeld. Like, oh, you think they'll eat anything? But I did like the cuter side quest towards the beginning of the game when you first get the app of the ungrateful bodega owner, as I said earlier, and he's got the cat named Spider-Man, and you have to go find him. And then later on, there's like another cat mission you have to do too. And
I didn't see that one.
They start being very referential about it. I think the cat's name is Vector or something, and they're like, "What is this? Like cats in a backpack? Is this like a thing now or something?" I think it's them just acknowledging that they're kind of reskinning a mission. There's another throwback side quest too, where you're finding pigeons for Harold.
Yes,
which is a thing you do in the original game, which is cool. I wanted to shout out a mission that I really liked, that I thought was very emblematic of PlayStation and the quality that, PlayStation Productions and Sony bring to bear in a lot of their games. And it was the whole bridge destruction scene, which it was Miles ultimately blames on himself, and he has like kind of a down moment after it, but it's so kinetic and fun and crazy, that whole thing. And Miles is kind of cast as the bad guy for underappreciating his own powers, but what's cool about that mission is that people are kind of with him, and you see that again. You see that kind of in the middle of the game when he's on the bridge and he disappears when he gets the cloaking device, and people are like, "But he helped us," and he's kind of being held up, I think, at that point by the rocks on people. But you find that later on when his mask is off and he's injured, and the deaf girl actually brings the mask back for him, and so no one can identify him or whatever. I wanted to just give that mission a shout out. I thought that was super awesome. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, Dave, or another thing I wanted to ask you about was about, I guess, the layers of deception in this game. It's interesting. So Aaron is the Prowler. His mom, I think, knows that Aaron's the Prowler, but doesn't tell Miles. Miles discovers that his dad knew that Aaron was the Prowler. Prowler tells Miles that Aaron chose to be a cop rather than a brother and kind of made them adversaries. So there's this whole like deep, thick, no one telling each other stuff situation, which brings me back to the idea of, do you think it's vital that these guys keep their identities hidden to begin with? Like, what's the big deal if people know? Like, why does it matter if Spider-Man is Peter Parker specifically? I understand why it matters if Bruce Wayne is Batman, because Bruce Wayne or Tony Stark is Iron Man, although everyone knows Tony Stark is Iron Man in that universe as far as I understand it. But that's different because they're rich in known quantities. But it's like, oh, Spider-Man's got to be someone. So Spider-Man is Peter Parker. what do you think about all this, the deception and kind of the rules of comics where you're kind of supposed to keep this stuff hidden?
No, it's a great point. And I was this game makes you think about it because there are a lot of layers of, Uncle Jefferson versus Uncle Aaron versus Miles, Finn versus Miles versus Rio. Like there's a lot of, it's really interesting the way I've never seen a superhero thing resolve all of that by the end. Everybody knows who everybody is by the end of this game, which is like, I think that's a really bold thing to do because not just games, not just movies, but these superhero stories dating back from their inception, right? They have this irresistible sort of dynamic concerning secret identities, right? And keeping alter egos and exploits hidden. So there's often, no matter what you have, characters, relationships, action, all of those things, but no matter what, you always have this built-in drama and tension, always in a traditional, conventional superhero story. So it's something that writers and creators have been leaning on for years. And sometimes things are not resolved at all. Sometimes they're not resolved for decades. It's like this thing that they just keep stringing you along with, that's drama, that's storytelling. But they resolve all of it in this by the end, which I think is interesting. I think one reason that a creator would cite, like, why does Spider-Man why can't people know he's Peter Parker? I think some of it is, remember what happened when Spider-Man got found out, the Green Goblin went after Aunt May, right? It's like to protect the innocent associates of said superhero.
That's the amazing scene where she's praying, right?
Yeah.
And then it explodes. People will use that scene all the time.
And here comes Willem Dafoe.
It's so fucking crazy. Yeah.
But I thought that was really interesting. I know it's a short game. I know they got plenty of other things to look forward to, and there's plenty of other things to integrate from the Spider-Man universe, plus whatever you're adding of your own. But I thought that was interesting. It's like, oh, everybody's just going to find out everything? That's okay. That's interesting.
Cards on the table. Yeah.
So I don't know. And, I wanted to go back to what you were saying with that bridge battle set piece, which is, partially playable. Maybe the second really memorable set piece for me after Rhino crashing through the mall, which I loved. There's something about, I have to give a Dagan softlock report. I softlocked during that part of the game. And what's this called? A glitch. I don't know if technically you could call it a softlock. I'll tell you what happened to me. There was a part, and you'll remember this, there's maybe the middle of that whole segment, there's a bus of people falling off the bridge, and you just have to quickly web it, which, you just L1, R1, whatever it is. L2, R1, I think. And my webs just wouldn't integrate with that proposed spot where it told you to do it. It just wouldn't happen. I was getting so frustrated. I was like, what am I supposed to do here? I brought up YouTube. Okay. As I'm playing, I'm watching a guy do it, an English guy do it. He's doing his playthrough. I'm like, I am doing exactly what this guy's doing. I just went back, canceled, and went back to previous checkpoint, which was fine because it was right there. 1, 2, 3. I did it. It just wouldn't, the game glitched out. It wouldn't let me do it. And it happened to me earlier in the game too with another thing. And I think that one thing, you'll know what I'm talking about, because later on you use your webs to connect the different electric generation points for like the generators and stuff. You have to string webs as electric wires, basically. There's something very clumsy in this game about how that's integrated into the control. Like they needed an extra button or something, right? And it's the whole hold down versus just tap dynamic, which I thought was a little bit iffy. So I just wanted to, I don't know if anybody else experienced that, but I was like 20 minutes, 25 minutes on that segment. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to bring it up later. And actually, I'm surprised to hear you played on PS5 and experienced those problems, although they're more endemic, because I'm playing the PS4 version. I was like, okay, maybe this version is just less tended to than the PS5 version or whatever, because I was surprised by I broke it a few times in very similar ways. That in fact, the second cat mission with that cat Vector, you're supposed to crawl under like this air duct to find him. And everything was happening in the game. Like he was talking, Miles was talking to the cat. You're supposed to find it. It's telling you what to do, but the cat's not there. And I after a few minutes, and you're using the proximity thing where it's showing you where it is. So you're supposed to, you are where you are. And I just restarted checkpoint and yeah, it fixed itself. And I had that problem a few times where button prompts wouldn't show up. So it seems like that is still common almost 3 years later.
Interesting.
And I didn't experience any technical issues. Technical issues like that are becoming more rare in AAA games, especially years on. So I wonder what that's all about. But I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to bring that up later that I actually did have some technical issues, but I was kind of chalking it up to being the PS4 version. But it sounds like that's not only endemic to the PS4 version. So that's good to know. I came up with this question. I had to ask you this. We were talking about Spider-Man killing people, right? And maybe an episode or two ago. So let's talk about this other thing. There's this point, actually, there's a couple points where Spider-Man comes across money. Ill-begotten, but lots and lots of it. There's one part where he's, I think, alone in one of the underground layers, and he's like, holy moly, this is an enormous amount of money. He's just there. It's like, why doesn't Spider-Man steal any of the money? And it's not even stealing, it's taking the money from thieves. How would you feel about this? Okay, so we agree Spider-Man has this line he won't cross where he won't kill anyone. Okay, but why not steal from the thieves? If the money's right there, if I were him, I'd be like, holy shit. I thought it was interesting because Miles comes across some of this money and kind of just casually says like, oh, look at all that money. And I'm like, if I were him, I'm like, just take a few of those stacks. Miles, like, no one's looking. It's fine. You don't get paid for this at all. That's the other crazy thing. Like, no one's paying for you. I assume in the Avengers or something, they have some sort of salary or something, but not in this. I don't know what's going on. So should Miles be allowed or Spider-Man be allowed to steal from the thieves? Is that crossing a boundary for you?
Skim a little off the top, right? Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I feel really bad about myself because I know full well that I would not be that virtuous, But I guess if Miles is still 17, he still lives under Rio's roof. He doesn't have to pay rent. So if Peter wasn't going to take it, it would really be a bad look if Miles took it because he really needs it less than Pete, who's getting evicted. Right. So, but I'll tell you what, dude, with all that money there, I think they could justify it by just saying, look, I'm going to take a little payout, little skim. It's, the city doesn't take care of me. I don't think the city's ever even come to Miles or Pete and said, look, can we whack this up? Like, let me get you a stipend at least. Right.
Get you insurance.
Pay for lunch.
Pension. Yeah, something. Yeah.
Just a little something. Let me throw you a bone here. Yeah, man, that must be, I'll tell you, man, I know I couldn't resist. So God bless him.
Yeah, it's like, you're not a cop. I don't want the cops to do that because that's not, but you're not a cop. They're very clear that you're not a cop. They kind of treat you and other you anyway. And a lot of people think you're a vigilante and no one knows that this money's gone anyway. In other words, if you were in that underground layer and you call the cops, there's fucking shit going down, here. And they find all this money. They're like, oh, we found $2.2 million and you just took $100,000 of it. Well, it's 2.3. No one knows. Like,
you can even spin it, right? You could even do a whole Robin Hood thing where you kind of steal from the rich, give to the poor. Whack it. Here's 50 grand for me, 50 grand for Feast.
I love that.
Right?
Love that.
And then everybody, it's like everybody wins. And look, we already know the police are stealing from the city with the overtime.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
Come on, God. Yeah. Cut it out with the overtime. I'm just kidding. I don't care. Our dad was a firefighter. I don't know if firefighters got overtime. Did they?
Yeah, because they do like different tours. So I don't know. Yeah. Probably. I'm sure they probably did.
So everybody wins. Literally everybody wins.
Let me ask you this. Can we all agree that letting people out of trunks is hysterical in this game? I should have brought this up probably in the last one too. There's this specific crime you do where there's probably a few of them where you have to chase these people and get this person, liberate them from this car trunk where they're getting kidnapped by Roxxon or Underground or whatever. And it's hysterical because at one point I killed all the guys. I let the L1, R1 pull the trunk out and then the mission ends and the girl just thanks me and starts walking away. And I want to be like, you were just kidnapped by a private military corporation in the middle of New York City. Do you want to maybe submit a police report or something, at least, the very least, talk about it?
There's going to be some PTSD. I'm good.
Thank you, Spider-Man. That was incredible. And then just like walks off. I was like, whoa.
Is that the one that says she's going to call a cab?
Yeah, that was like the one. That is exactly the one. Yeah.
He's like, can I get you home? She's like, I'll call a cab. It's like, you're really chill about this.
Yeah, fucking New York City's really worn you out, lady.
She was in the trunk during a high-speed chase.
Yes, exactly. And you stopped the car too, so it probably did one of those crazy like flips in the air, and you caught it and put it down or whatever.
She was like, "Oh my!" She must be so bruised up. Did you see
PTSD?
I mean, scarred for life.
At the very least, yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't even. It's so sad because she doesn't even realize it. It hasn't even the hasn't seen the onset of it yet. But there's a movie from a few years ago. You have to see it. Adam Sandler in a dramatic turn again. Uncut Gems. Have you seen it?
Oh
yet?
No, I've heard of it, but I have not seen it.
There's a great trunk. That's the first thing I went to. There's a great trunk scene. You got to watch it. I would
like to watch it. I heard he's really, really good at. Didn't he win an award or something, Adam Sandler?
I think he might have won multiple awards for that role. And New York, he lives on Long Island. You gotta watch, dude. You gotta see it. But yeah, I thought of that and she is one of the people, if I'm not mistaken. She's one of the people on the block that he goes on the mission for to recover the goods, like the barber. She owns the restaurant, whatever other people are on that block. So she's one of the people at the end, I think, that see Miles without his mask on and protect him from the news media at the end.
Yeah, I love that.
She's
that
she still seems okay. I don't know.
That scene's dope. I love that scene.
So good.
They won't. He's Spider-Man. He didn't say it like that at all because he's not Italian. He's Hispanic.
Might be. I wonder if there's like a future villain in that group. Someone who just turns sour and says, that would be what? I know something nobody else knows.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Right?
That'd be very cool. Let's talk a little bit about the combat. I wanted to get deeper into this just because I didn't do a lot of the, not yet. I want to go back to and play it again. And I did the first time because I platinumed the game on PS5 when it came out. But so this is my second time through it. But I didn't do the combat challenges. But I did tune into the combat in the sense that I really think they did what was necessary, which was to reduce the number of gadgets, keep you in the radials less time, make you use the radial fewer times, and that the weapons. I didn't use the duplicator or whatever, but I did like the mine, using the mine, like finding the right places to shoot it and then using L3 and it just explodes and you immediately get a mine ammo back. So you can really circle through that. Obviously the regular web slinger is good too. I love that gravity bomb. And that's basically all you get in addition to your, and I guess they would say, well, we didn't really reduce things because there's the whole Venom thing with holding down L1 or whatever it is and punching or using triangle and swinging people. I really dug it. I thought the combat system was really fun. And I don't know if it's just because it would be interesting if we would have experienced again the requisite 2 or 3 year gap between playing the games. Maybe I'm just really proficient and you might feel the same way because we're just playing these games one after the other. So we're just very, very good at it. But I felt very powerful, but I felt that the game was incredibly balanced. I enjoyed it. And I liked fighting. Again, they bring in some new things. They have the mega heavy armored dude. You have to use the Venom power to destroy his shield. That's cool. But they got rid of some of the aerial enemies. A lot of this stuff is obviously deeply reskinned, which is, again, pretty cool. But I just thought that they reduced it enough to make it more interesting. And it felt like Miles did less damage. Like you had to rough people up more than Peter to kind of make them submit, which I thought was pretty cool too and true to form. Although he would become more powerful later on. The one complaint I have related to that is the upgrade system is relatively good, but not as good. I don't know if you noticed it really locks you into what you can upgrade at certain times by saying, oh, this isn't available yet. This isn't available yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's kind of annoying. So you have 1 point to spend, but I can really only spend it on one thing. That's what you're telling me, unless I hold it and wait for later. So there were some things that didn't work, but I really enjoyed the symphony of the combat and the different types of combat, along with the upgrade systems and getting rid of some of the more boring and slower parts of the game, which they really just eschewed completely. I thought was a really good move on the design for the design philosophy of the game. So what did you think of playing the game and the combat? We obviously went into swinging and stuff is not much different in this game. I think that feels awesome. It's fun as hell, but the combat I do think feels actually noticeably different. It is different.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a nice upgrade. I think I agree with you. I just loved it. I think you're right. As far as the powering up, it was smaller, a little less, I think, suitably so. And I think it does feel the powering up did feel more graduated or locked off or incremental. And I was just really interested in the straight up, capabilities and didn't get too tricky with it. I think the first thing I realized about this game, it seemed to me early on, was that as far as the combat, insofar as situating the enemies and the environment, I felt like they tried to introduce a little more verticality in this game. So in other words, a lot of fights, there were enemies on multiple levels. They didn't just keep it where all the enemies generally were on the same plane. So they seem like if you were fighting the underground or if you were fighting the Exxon Roxxon, super soldiers, Exxon super soldiers.
By intent, yeah, I'm sure there's something.
But Exxon does not want us to know that. They would kind of put them over 3 levels, and what I would try to do is I would try to get to the top level so I wouldn't get shot at, and just work my way down. So I would go up top, then go to the middle layer, then go to the street level and take out those dudes there, which always seemed like sort of the appropriate choice, which I thought was cool. And then just kind of this, I employed a lot of the same tactics, tried to stay airborne, tried to use my web once I was finishing working over one enemy, tried to use my web to navigate directly to the next enemy. Of course, you have the heavies, whether it's the big dudes with the Cloud Strife energy swords or the guys with the gauntlets, that the Venom, sort of your bioelectric powers, that you could use for that, so it could break through. I love the fallout of using like the Venom punch, because it not only would one shot kill the dude you were aiming at, but it would have like this electrical fallout and stun everybody else around them, which I thought was really cool. I thought calling it Venom was a weird choice.
Yeah, it's confusing because I don't know if is it related to the Venom character?
I don't know. I hope not, and I don't see how it could be, because the Venom thing is a whole different.
We see Venom. Is that Venom at the end of the game?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And we know he's in this. And we know he's in Spider-Man 2. They've not really made that a secret. So
yeah, right. That's right. And that's I don't know why this is, but it does make sense because Venom is so cool that it always starts with these other baddies, and then of course we're going to graduate to Venom because he's the best, right? So
is Venom Todd McFarlane Venom?
I don't know who created Venom. That's a good point. That's a really good question. I think like Venom is from the 90s. Maybe the late 80s. Don't quote me.
Late 80s, I would say.
Don't quote me.
Which I think is when he was.
Would have been McFarlane's era for sure.
Yeah.
Right before Image started. When was that? The early 90s, right? But yeah, the combat was so good, dude. I really enjoyed everything. Again, just staying airborne, trying to employ, a lot of the same strategies, but there was some new stuff with the Venom. I like the fact that you had to power that up. It was the same thing as the stealth. You had to build up those abilities. You couldn't use them instantly. They had to recharge. They cooled off. So you had to build those things up. And it's really fun. I mean, the only downside to this again is that the combat and the physical gameplay is so good. The meat of the game is so wonderfully done that you really don't, everything else is just not as good. It doesn't matter how good the little side quests are, the great ideas, or the little cooldown periods. It doesn't matter. Like this is all you want to do, to the degree where I feel like they should make a game where it's literally just that. You know what I mean? Just going that satisfying thing of swinging around and beating the shit out of people, because it's so well done. Yeah,
they don't have. I don't think they ever really did any. Yeah, like an arena style thing, because a game that's, I think, related genetically to this game is Infamous from Sucker Punch. And there's 3 of those games with some DLC, and the expansion for the 3rd game, First Light, it has this really cool arena mode where you can like get high scores and all of that because the combat is so good. And in fact, there's a specific part of the game that reminds me a lot of Infamous Second Son, which is that Miles and Finn chase where she's got that neon kind of thing going. And I'm like, that's straight out of Infamous. I'm sure it's not inspired by that, but that's what it reminded me of, because you have weird powers in Infamous, like neon and concrete and stuff like that. So that's one of them. And that really reminded me of that, especially at night. And they're going over, I think at that time, as she's going in the dark, she's going over to, or they're coming back from Fisk Tower, I guess, which is another cool touchstone to the original game, because you see Fisk Tower under the Underground's control. And I'm pretty sure, could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's a part of them where you're in the map from the beginning of the original game, but they changed it because it's all fucked up now or whatever, which I thought was kind of cool. Full circle thing. I mean, some people would say that's just reusing assets, but I wouldn't say it was that easy because they changed everything in it, but made it really
that's a good
appreciable,
point,
which is cool. So there are a few other things I wanted to ask you about, and we can talk about anything you want to talk about that we didn't bring up, or a few things that I thought were cool anyway. One interesting wrinkle I thought was cool about the Krieger character, and he reveals this at the end of the game, is that so people want to get rid of Spider-Man for all these different reasons, mostly because he's just in the way for what they want to do, but Krieger actually wants Spider-Man. He wants to reverse engineer him, which I thought was really, really interesting. And he wants to conduct all sorts of experiments on him, which I think is neat. You had brought this up earlier, which was the rhino fight. I think is super cool. And I was remembering a lot more of this game than I did when I played 2018 Spider-Man. And obviously I never played the DLC because I had played this even in this very house 3 years ago when the PS5 came out. And so I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. And I really, really dug the rhino fight. So I wanted to shout that out. I also enjoyed towards the end of the game, the flashback when you go to the museum with them. And it's a little strange because, and I wrote this in my notes, it's cool that they are so blatantly stealing and trying to break into this place, like in front of everyone. They steal something off of one of the exhibits. They're not trying to be conspicuous or inconspicuous at all, which I think is so weird. And it is kind of cool because the woman that tried to stop them from coming in sees them go up the elevator later and kind of just
loved that,
shrugs it off. There's that other really cool scene though during the museum flashback where Peter and Miles bump into each other and Dr. Octavius is with them or whatever. I thought that was really, really nice touch too. So I wanted to give that a shout out. And then I just liked the visuals at the end with the Civil War style kind of fight between the underground and Roxxon on the streets of Harlem, and how you can get involved in both sides and actually kind of fight along one side or the other. I'm not entirely sure how it reads that, but you can come in and basically surprise people even during the firefight, even when you're involved, and you can still get the surprise instant kill with the triangle button, which I thought was pretty neat as well. And finally, I wanted to shout out the ending, not only the whole ending with Norman kind of letting his son out, and I assume we'll see more of that in the second game, the second core game. But I love the scene where Finn and Miles are falling and she apologizes to him right before they like hit the ground. So those are the things the last few things I wanted to give a shout out. I've been pretty inclusive though with everything I wanted to say. What else did you want to say about Miles Morales before we wrap this bad boy up?
Yeah, I love all that, man. I mean, I thought about you. I love incorporating Rhino into this because you kind of need that on top of everything else going on. I feel like you kind of need, or the story benefits from that unstoppable villain, like that unstoppable bull in the china shop. Like that character is just going to keep on coming. Right. You need to have that in the background. So I kind of, is it better to say keep on coming? No, that's not. That's worse.
Keep on
Leave the
coming.
G off? No.
Yeah, no.
It's no good.
No.
It's definitely, there's no right way.
There's really no good way to say it.
But I was thinking of you because when I think the last time we see Rhino, the second or third fight, the red Rhino fight, right, where he has the Roxxon tech now, and he looks awesome. He's got the red armor and sort of those glowing red LEDs, and he's got those 4 like glowing eyes that I guess are like cameras. Like he's all cyborged out, right? He's all cybernetic suit anime style. I was thinking of you because I thought of Tunnel Rhino from, I guess that's Mega Man X3.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So you got it. He didn't have the drills. Our Rhino didn't have the drills, but I was like, wow, that's pretty.
Yeah, that character has like drills on his feet and stuff, right? Like
he slides. He literally Gumby slides around.
Yeah,
right,
it's
with
super
the drills.
Cool. Yeah, it's dope.
So funny, dude. But that fight was so cool. The boss fights were really cool. I thought this game was a little easier though than Spider-Man. I didn't think Spider-Man was hard. It wasn't difficult. I thought it was a nice level of challenge. But this game, I don't think I lost a single boss fight. I don't think I had to. A couple of chases I had to reset 1 or 2 times. I kind of missed, I got too far away from the pursuit and but with the boss fights, I thought they were really kind of easy to understand. You got acclimated to exactly what you need to do pretty quickly. They were good. Some of them were multi-phase. You got round 1, round 2, round 3. But I thought they were pretty intuitive. You kind of understood. And maybe that we just benefited from coming off the other Spider-Man games. I don't know. But I thought that was really cool. And yeah, I mean, the storytelling throughout the end, the way everything resolved with Finn sort of apologizing at the very end, in those final moments, literally while they're plummeting from the top of that building. Thought that was pretty heart-wrenching. And, her ultimate sacrifice. I mean, she caused all this, but she also saves Peter's life in a, kind of a baller Iron Man move. Like, I'm going to go out to the stratosphere so the explosion's too far away from the Earth type of thing. I definitely thought of Iron Man with that. And you know what? I thought the flashbacks were really well integrated into the story. I know I talk about getting away from the combat and, the sort of emphasis of the game and the main thrust, but the dialogue, the exposition and the flashbacks, I think, were really well done. And some of them, I got lost in those flashbacks. They're tied really well into the action. And then I would get sort of taken away. Like I would get distracted by them. So when I got back into the fight, I would, have to get my senses back. I would have to get my druthers again. So I thought they were really good. And like you said, all the storytelling elements and the way they sort of honor Spider-Man, I do feel like there's something in a well-made thing like this where there's obviously some philosophy of Spider-Man's important. And, insert property here. They could do this with Star Wars, like you said earlier. They could do this with some sort of DC property, Ninja Turtles, whatever it is, right? Ghostbusters. The list goes on and on. When we're doing that, we have to honor it. We have to honor the legacy. This has a huge fan base. It's been around for a long time. We need to do it justice. And I got, like the other Spider-Man game and the DLC, Miles, same thing. I just got that vibe that they were really trying to do something awesome. And, soup to nuts, like this game is really well done.
Nuts and milk.
Soup to balls.
Soup to balls.
That would be
That's a good one.
I like it.
Oh, man. That's great. Well said. Yeah, I agree with much of what you're saying. I think that the game is refined. I think it's a really good length. Oh, and price point was right. And it really, it just reinvigorates my thought that though it would be dangerous to make a game as a platform, like a single player game like this, it's just an example of how you might do it. Because you have Spider-Man 1 full length, then the 3 DLC packs, kind of the machine gun fire. Then you have something kind of in the middle, and it all works in the same environment. And I think it's just from a production standpoint, it's an impressive way to extract more value. Like they probably made a lot of money on these games. I would assume. That goes without saying, but I think well above probably what they even projected. I mean, as we said earlier, Spider-Man in the earlier episode, Spider-Man, the original 2018 Spider-Man, is pound for pound the best-selling PlayStation exclusive ever. So, or PlayStation published game, you should say, because it's not really necessarily exclusive anymore. But I'm glad we finally got through all of these, and so now we're prepared for Spider-Man 2, which I'm so excited. I'm going to begin playing this weekend, and I'm excited about it. I know you're going to probably get into Mario first, and Mario got great reviews as well. So
I see this. Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, Wonder can't be bad. I love, we were saying this on Punching Up. I just really look for those games that I could play casually. Not that we're going to talk about them on the shows. That's almost inevitable, especially the big things like Wonder, but you're not playing to a deadline, and you could just jump. Wonder, like a 2D platformer, especially something made by Nintendo, you could just jump in and out casually. Like you could play when you have a free moment, that type of thing, on top of the big games like this that I feel like, the more of these games that I play, it's they're necessities. Like you have to experience these things. And the other thing I realized, it's not all rocket science. Like Insomniac did an awesome job, but it's just really smart game design. Like I was thinking about this game. You're fighting these two disparate groups of enemies. You're fighting the sort of Roxxon super troops, and then you're fighting the underground thugs, right? And then you're kind of ping-ponging back and forth. And then what do? At the end, you're fighting both at the same time. And it just ratchets up the scale. That's just, you were supposed to do that. You were graduating to that point. In retrospect, if you never got to that point, it would be a miss. But of course they did that. That's where it's going. You have to fight both while they're fighting each other. And so there's a lot of that really just smart game design, and not all of it is, a genius move. I think all of it's just knowing how to make a game that's going to hit. And when you pull all these ingredients in, the environments, the combat, the traversing, the character relationships, the story, the length, the side questing, everything about it is just it really hit with me, this whole franchise. And I was really pleased to see that Miles held up its end of the bargain with that. Super good.
Well said. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and thank you for taking the time to go on this journey with me. I think it was fun to revisit these from my own mind, and kind of just all the amount of games that I play. and how things just kind of get lost in the fray. So to really be able to polish myself up to be ready for Spider-Man 2, I'm really appreciative of that. And I hope everyone enjoyed our journey through it as well. Thank you for taking the time. We'll obviously be back for Spider-Man 2. That'll happen in November. Woo. But we'll record a full episode with Spider-Man 2. It won't just be us, it'll be others as well. And I think there's probably going to be so many takers that, as I said, I think we will probably just do 2 separate episodes so everyone can say what they need to say about Spider-Man 2. It's doing really well. I'm excited to see how well it sells. I think it's going to do great for Sony and so on and so forth. But in the meantime, enjoy Miles Morales. It's on PS4, PS5, and PC, along with Spider-Man 2018, which is on those platforms as well. So you have lots of different options. Highly recommended. Definitely don't jump into Spider-Man 2 without playing these games first. There's just no reason. And in fact, if you could just stop needing to be part of the zeitgeist, if you even wait long enough and you need the time to play those other games, who knows, Spider-Man 2 might even be cheaper by the time you get around to buying it yourself. So there could be an upside for you as well. But Dave, thanks again for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Oh, it was awesome, dude. And watch the Spider-Verse movies, please, everybody. Come on. Sony
I didn't see the second one. I saw the first one, but because we did it on Knockback, but I never saw it.
Oh, you're going to like the second one.
Yeah, I like the first one a lot.
And there's going to be a third.
That's great. So, good for them.
Yeah.
And thank you all out there for your love, kindness, and support. Appreciate you. You know the drill. Patreon.com/laststandmedia. Early ad free access. Laststandmedia.store for merch. We'll see you next time for more. Until then, goodbye. Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is conceived by, is written by, and is directed by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-hosts are Chris Raygun Maldonado and Dustin Furman. The show is produced by executive producer Dustin Furman. It's edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by my best friend, Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand's shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we're grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor. Thank you.